Come to share.
The mic was not on.
Oh.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another 3D Hangouts. I'm Noe Pedro Ruiz, designer here at Adafruit. Joining me every week is Pedro.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Pedro Ruiz, creative tech here at Adafruit, and every week we come to share 3D printing projects featuring electronics from Adafruit.
That's right. This is where we combine 3D printing and DIY electronics to make inspirational projects for you folks. Sorry about the beginning. We're still working on new things. But hey, this week's coupon code is...
Oh, what's that? We
MIDI.
have stingers now.
Yeah.
New addition to the show.
I want to welcome everybody to the show. Thank you guys so much in the chat from joining us all over the place. We have folks on YouTube and Facebook. We are streaming live. This is episode 125. It is Wednesday, not Thursday. I still have to update the intro.
That's right. This is episode, you already said it.
Yeah.
215.
Cool.
On February 15th, we hope you all had a wonderful Valentine's Day yesterday.
Yes.
Saying a big shout out to everybody in the chat room. Steph Kirby, James, Ross, Maish, Shell?
Sorry about the name.
Sorry. Sam.
The butchering names.
What is up, everybody?
Hello, everybody.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes. So this week's project is musical and 3D printed and CNC milled. So check this out. This project was actually inspired and a derivative of Todd Treese's project, where he made a drum machine out of, where he made a capacitive touch drum machine. So if you guys remember watching the sequencer from a tree, he took that project and made it into this nice wood metal inlay sequencer. So this project kind of combines all of the stuff that Todd did and adds Bluetooth. So big shout out to Todd, who put together the software for it and helping me do things. So check out the guide if you haven't already. I just published it. It got a little bit later, but I just published it. Really happy how the way it turned out. I have all of the parts listed out. We got prerequisite guides that you can check out as well. The circuit diagram, you can totally remix it. You don't have to use a 16 neopixel ring. You could use a neopixel strip or fabricate your own. You can kind of wire it up yourself, the individual neopixels like the breadboard ones. So that is always an awesome option. And the software is a part of, it's bundled in with the 15-step library, again, from Todd Treese, who put that together. And
this is the real meat and potatoes of this project, because it makes everything work.
Yeah, so it combines the MPR 121 library with the NeoPixel library, and the real heavy lifting is actually being done by the NRF51, which is able to transmit all the MIDI notes through Bluetooth. So it's an official like Bluetooth protocol. And the 3D printing is pretty straightforward. Some folks were asking if you can 3D print the touch pads. Absolutely. There is conductive filament. We stock some from Protopasta. These guys made a nice blend of conductive PLA. It's a little bit flexible, so it might not work on all 3D printers, namely some of the Delta bots. We've had some things here and there, but for most parts, it prints pretty well with standard PLA settings. I do have some tips on printing this stuff. I recommend printing it on blue painter's tape or glass. If you are using a zebra skin or a build tack type surface, it might adhere too well, where you might lose a layer or two. Another tip I have is to print it at 100% infill, because it is only 10 or 20 layers thick. You kind of need all of those layers to be flat and not
you need to be able
infill.
to have the layers all touch, so the capacitive touch will work on it.
Yeah, so you have more conductivity.
So the main reason you didn't want to do this is because to attach the wires to this, you have to use something like bare conductive to adhere the wire to that.
Or you could use the copper tape, and it has a sticky adhesive, and then just solder your wire
Right
to the
copper
tape,
yeah.
before you put it on, because you might melt the capacitive touch PLA stuff. So that's the 3-part. I even added a CNC milling part. If anybody has access to an other mill, you can totally reuse the G-code file that I generated out of Fusion 360. And I also go through like a quick little guide on how you can use that one G-code and duplicate it 6 times so you can mill it. I actually milled this out 8 times, or not 8, 9 times. I milled it out 9 times.
I'm missing a bad there.
Yeah, or 12, whatever.
Because you built 2.
Yeah, it's because I built 2. Super funny. So I used double-sided tape. This is, what is it called? Double-coated craft paper tape? Nito tape, that's what it's called. Yeah, this is some really good stuff. So if you're ever trying to figure out a good way to adhere or to stick your material to the spoil bed of your mill, this tape is pretty good. I like using it. It takes about 8 minutes to mill one of them. You can, as opposed to 3D printing, you can 3D print it in 4 minutes. So this is where like 3D printing is faster than milling, but that's because when you're milling aluminum, you kind of have to have really, really shallow step downs. This is a step down of 0.5 of a millimeter. That's 0.05 millimeters. So yeah, that's pretty shallow. So you have to keep doing that until you get through the. It's a 1/8 inch thick piece of material. So if you have another mill, but you have a different piece of aluminum that's thicker, you might have to face. You definitely will have to face it off first. So you kind of step it down until it's the right thickness. But all that's in the guide, so you can check that out. Wiring is pretty straightforward. There's some tips here and there. Last week on Pedro's project, he talked about using the flexible PCB to extend the voltage and ground. I went ahead and did that too, so I recommend doing that. And I show you guys how I kind of mount, secure these tweezers to the third helping hands, so it's just a little bit easier to kind of handle. So definitely a tweezer project. So that's a nice tip. I also show you how I kind of measure the wires. I like using the enclosure as to gauge the measurements, and heat shrink tubing is a great thing to use. You just apply some heat to it. Never use the tip of your soldering iron, just use the heating element, like I'm showing you here in the little GIF, or GIF, whatever. Worked out really well. This copper tape is really cool. It works with a lot of different things. The Paige is actually using it on the next week's project as well. So if you don't have any of this copper foil tape stuff, check it out. The adhesive backing is conductive, so that's how you can get this to work.
That's one of those handy pieces of parts that you don't know when you'll need until you have a project comes up.
Exactly. So pick some up if you don't have any already. Hey, I found it a little bit difficult to tin the copper while the tape was secured to aluminum, because guess what aluminum does? It dissipates heat really, really well. So as I'm trying to heat it up, it's dissipating heat, and I'm like, why isn't this working? So one advice would be to solder to the tape before you stick it to aluminum or plastic, because you might melt the plastic. But again, aluminum dissipates heat very well. Maybe that's why our iPhones are made out of aluminum. So that was kind of funny. I was like, I managed to do it though. So if you do it quick enough, you can do it this way. I show you in the video. It's literally like, it's really quick. So,
and a quick tip, if you want to solder this on there, next week I'll show you how I soldered little itty bitty, little tiny pieces of solder, or of the copper tape soldered to it. You just use the tweezer to hold it in place, and then you use a third helping hand to hold the tweezers that's holding the copper tape, little sliver of tape to tin up.
It's a project for mice, like or ants. It's very, very intricate.
It's going to be very much like that next week.
You'll see it. It's crazy. Like I was busting out laughing because of how teeny tiny these wires have to be. And it's like shavings of copper tape, like not strips, shavings. It's so small. All right, back on note here. The assembly, this is one of those projects where you can wire the whole circuit and then throw it into your case. Very, very simple, using machine screws. I know you could do pegs and all that stuff, but I really wanted a secure fit, so that's why I opted in for using machine screws. Not a lot, just 4 of them. A lot of folks ask, where do we get these screws from? Amazon is a great place, and what was another one? Fast County Fasteners is a great place.
Albany Fastener.
Albany Fastener. Albany County or something like that, which I will have linked in the guide. Another thing that I kind of didn't show in the video was that the tolerances do get loose on some of the things that snap fit, mainly the NeoPixel ring and the touchpads. So I added a little bit of mounting tack, these little blue dots. They're like little mounting tack. So what's cool about this is that when you can take them off and they don't harden, so they stay nice and soft and they retain their stickiness. So if you don't have any mounting tack, pick some up. It's really good stuff. It's a good holds stuff in place, and it's not a permanent solution, but it still secures it enough. So really cool. So that's pretty much the assembly part of it. But I mainly shoot you on over to Todd's guide because he talks about, well, he wrote the interface, and it is a little bit complicated to cover. But basically you have different modes where you can trigger the sequencer, turn it off, put it in play mode. You can erase all the notes. When you go into command mode, you have different things that you can change on the fly, so that being the tempo, the shuffle, there's a shuffle built into it. The length of the sequence, so you can make it, I think, as long as 64, I think is the limit, 64 steps or beats, I forget what it is. You can change the MIDI channel, you can change the pitch of each individual pad, which is really cool. So instead of having to step into the code and manually put that in, you can change that as well. And of course the velocity, which is the kind of loudness of your note. But let's go ahead and do a demo. What I have done though is I disabled the sequencer and the UI, because if you tap two of these buttons at the same time, you basically would go into command mode. So that kind of stops you from making chords. But when you turn off the sequencer, you literally just comment out one code. You can make chords, or you can all of them at the same time. So you can definitely have multi-touch in this.
Very cool.
And it kind of speeds it up too. So you can make this really interesting kind of pattern too. And I'm just using GarageBand. So if you have something more that's like a polyphonic, or is it monophonic? You can do some, you do like these, like, instead of doing a chord, it's more like,
is it not switch playing? Over to GarageBand, just so you can.
Looks like it's a 3-piece of software that Apple ships with most of the computers, and I'm just doing that. I just have one of these, like, whatever default path patches. So here's like just like these whatever noises. So it's kind of neat. But again, I like to show off like the chords, so you can play multiple things at the same time. Yeah, that's kind of it, really. So it's really fun. The layout was kind of, so it might not be the most ergonomical thing, like what is pad 1, like what note do you know is where. So I kind of have this as my indicator of where pad 1 is. So this is the USB port for recharging the battery. So you can of course recharge the battery. Every feather has a charging circuit on it, or you can reprogram it obviously through here. Yeah. I was going to show something else I forgot. Oh yeah, so I want to show you guys how I can connect this to mobile devices. So not just your desktop, but let's say you have an iPhone or an Android phone that has some audio software. So here's kind of how you do it. Switch over to my screen. So on the Mac, there's this thing called the MIDI Studio, which is a part of the audio MIDI setup, which is like built-in application. It's in the utilities folder of your Mac. I'm not sure how you do it in Windows. I apologize, but I don't know how to do it. So you double-click on the Bluetooth thing, and then your Adafruit Bluefruit LE just shows up. I actually have 2 of them, so that's why there's 2 listed. But right now it's connected, so you just got to connect to it, and then most software is just smart enough to know to automatically add it to your GarageBand, or it just automatically adds it. But you do have to manually connect to it because it is a Bluetooth device. It's a native Bluetooth MIDI device. So I'm going to disconnect from it from now. And you see it says, hey, your number of inputs have changed up here. So that's kind of nice of GarageBand. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the overhead, and I'm going to show you guys how to kind of do this on your phone here. So for iPhone specifically, there's this app called BLE MIDI. If you're using an Android device, I'm sure there's a similar type of app. But if it doesn't show up like it doesn't now, you might have to turn off the device and turn it back on. There's a little slide switch there. So I just turn it on.
This just reinitializes advertising.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If this happens like that, just kind of force quit the app and then open up BLE MIDI again. Hey, there it is. It says it's not connected. So just tap on it to connect to it. And that's basically it. Now you can use GarageBand, or in my case, I like to use Nano Studio, which is I think it's like 10 or 20 bucks, but it's a very, very like robust piece of audio software for your phone. So I'm going to manage. And of course you can do this with your iPad or whatever tablet you have. Go to MIDI, and then I already have it enabled. See right there, Adafruit, Bluetooth. That's so awesome that it shows up there. Adafruit, Bluetooth. So now you can kind of play with let me see if I can turn it up a little bit. So the cool thing is when you're using a phone, you have the ability to do modulation live. So as I trying to do some Mega Man. So you can have lots of hours of fun with this. It's really cool that you can kind of come up with these different kind of patterns and interesting melodies with this layout, because typically you have, you know, something like this. And what's nice is that if you kind of map each note to be chromatic, whatever note you pick is going to kind of sound nice. So I like that, because they all have this nice harmonics to it when you combine the two notes together. So that's kind of neat. That's how to connect to your mobile device. Again, you can work with a desktop, obviously. Yeah. Again, you could do a step sequencer. I have it disabled right now because, like I was saying, making these chords requires you to pick multiple commands, and by default, it'll trigger command mode if I had the sequencer and the UI turned on. So, just showing you that there's lots of customization things you can do with this. It's very, very cool. So I hope it inspires you guys to kind of be creative with the layout, and of course kind of make it your own. So that's, I think, all I wanted to cover. Did I show the capacitive touchpads over here yet? I don't think I have. So here I have an extra an extra 3D printed case, and here's like the machined stuff. Wow, my color temperature just like crazily changed. I need to lock it down. It was really weird, like the color was changing. So here is what the touchpads look like. If you have problems printing them, like curling, I would recommend using a brim, but you don't have to. Let's see if I can get this to autofocus correctly or manual focus. This is always the toughest part. Yeah. There. So I printed this on blue painter's tape. Again, you don't want to print this on a zebra skin or a build tack surface, because it will stick and stay stuck forever. So there you go. Same, PLA settings I always use, 220 on the extruder, which people think is hot, but it's pretty good. And that's it. They're a little bit more loose because 3D printing, so it's a little bit more loose. But hey, that's one way you could kind of interchange them and have different colors or whatever. It's still changing the color temperature. That makes no sense, even though it's locked. See? Anyway, that's it for that. I really like the look of aluminum, and a lot of folks seem to like it as well. So it's a good combination of not just making like these like pretty add-ons to your 3D part, but actually making it useful, because you just get this super nice, and it gives it a little bit of weight to it too. So I really like it. I polished these out too, which I didn't cover in the video because that would have been too long. But I did polish these out using a Dremel tool, or just a polishing wheels for my Dremel tool. So I just polished these out and made sure the edges aren't as sharp and cut you, because they do kind of look like razor blades. But that's kind of it. Real quick, I'll talk about the layer by layer, which was like last week. It was a live stream last week. Basically, I talk about how you can make these little nubs, right? These little nubs here on the edges of your enclosures, and then have these little indentations on the, what do you call it? On the lip of the enclosure, so that you can have this really nice snap fit part.
And the reason behind this is so you don't have to take up any more space on there, adding standoffs to screw in.
Yeah, if I were to screw this on top, I would have to make it bigger. So, you know, it's a really nice, small, compact. It's a little bit taller than it needs to be. Like, this could be shrunk down like half the size. And like I was saying before, if anybody knows a good way of, I don't know if I said that yet, if anybody knows a good way of how to kind of mount the battery, Pedro, I think you've done some really nice like tray type designs, but I would recommend like wrapping it in gaffer's tape or something to protect it a little bit.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, because that can get punctured if you rattle it around, if you're traveling with
it. So if I were to I'm going to ship this to Todd, I would probably need to come up with a good solution.
Probably have the battery disconnected,
maybe,
and wrapped in bubble wrap.
Yeah, because I don't want to shake it right now, but oh yeah, I'm still connected to the iPhone. Herp derp. Anyway,
do your auto focusing.
Yeah, it's pretty much done. Pedro, can you take any questions while I kind of connect this back up to GarageBand?
Yeah, so one of the things you can set up was how to change the MIDI notes. You have a chart that you can show off there.
Yeah, I do.
And that's then actually in the chat room, people are asking, Kirby's asking, you need a proximity sensor on the side to add effects. So it does have a option that you can go through. You can change all of the velocity. You can change the
modulation isn't something we have yet, but that would be really cool. So being able to change, like I was showing you here on the iPhone, like I was just changing it by changing the X and Y on whatever delay or whatever it was set to. But yeah, adding extra sensors is definitely something that you could do. It could be a potentiometer, which is sort of the basic thing to do, but to have something like a proximity sensor would be cool. Or a lot of folks like using the accelerometer, so as you would kind of turn it and move it, it would kind of modulate that way. So those are probably future things that we would do. I really would like to revisit this so I can show you guys how the command mode works. And ideally what I'd like to happen is to be able to change settings through the Bluefruit LE app. So that'd be really cool. Because going into command modes and remembering the button combinations can be a little bit complicated. So it'd be nice if you could adjust all the things on the Adafruit Bluefruit LE app, because there is a control pad built in. So that'd be nice.
Somebody else is asking, is there a way to make the capacitive sensor a bit smaller? I'm a bit tight on space.
The capacitive touch sensor smaller?
Are you talking about the pads or the actual breakout board?
The breakout board is pretty small.
And we do have two different
Yeah, we have a shield and the breakout board standalone. And I'm using the breakout board. So I don't think it could get any smaller unless you were to manufacture, and unless you were to design your own board. But this is the smallest we can get it. I think it's like, there's dimensions over here, tech details. It is 33 millimeters by 19 millimeters, so
it's pretty tiny.
It's pretty tiny. There's a little bit of gap here, but it's because of the layout is made for breaking it out. But if you have the capacity, you can make your own board, I guess, spin off your own board. We do have all of the EagleCAD files available, so you can remix that if you want. But that's the capacitive touch sensor that we're using. Very, very cool. Only $8. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
Kirby was asking if we tried conductive filament. So the first prototype that you made with this did, in fact, use capacitive.
Yeah, if you watch back, I actually started this project in July of last year, and I didn't think of using the other mill till after I had made the first prototype, which had the conductive PLA pads.
Yeah. Another comment that keeps popping up is making a Simon game out of this.
I actually did want to make a Simon game. I talked to Todd about it, and he liked the idea as well. Because I was having my doubts about this project because I kept kind of, it wasn't like vibing right. And I did a really, really simple, quick update, which was just offsetting. You see these outlines here? They were actually more closer together, so I would like mistrigger things. So just by giving that little bit of offset, I have a better, you can kind of touch you won't mistrigger things as bad. So before I would kind of mistrigger things. And of course the UI too was kind of throwing me off because I was trying to play really fast. and the UI was messing up my combinations because it's like, oh, I would go into a combination mode. I'm trying to do a multi-chord, multi-button chord thing. Yeah. So
James is saying that you can throw a radio module in there and make it a Morse code key. So there's a lot of
this
is the baseline for making a bunch of different projects.
I think so. Just the concept of using a hexagon. I really like the shape of hexagons. You've seen me do it a bunch of times, but I never made an instrument like this. Typically, all the instruments are like a box with a grid of 4x4 buttons or whatever. This is very different. I haven't seen anybody kind of do this type of thing. Somebody was saying that it looks like a video game prop. Can you guys tell me which video game and what prop? Because I don't know which one. Maybe just to kind of look at it.
So one of the cool things that you're not showing here is the step sequencer.
Yeah, so the step sequencer is, you can see it in the video in action of how it can run, but I turned it off so that I can show you this thing and speed things up, yeah.
Maybe we'll show it off next week, but it's super cool to see you being able to create a pattern right there, mobile, without having anything tethered to it.
That's right, yeah. So and it's cool that the NeoPixel ring animates with the BPM of the tempo.
Very cool.
Awesome.
And I think you already went over the MIDI cap guide and the UI code. Did you?
No, I didn't talk about the MIDI notes. So real quick, guys, if you want to know
a little cheat sheet for figuring out the MIDI keys and assigning them.
Yeah. So here I have the code open. If you go to line 70, you can see where you can kind of change some of like the prime dynamic values, right? So it's just a simple array, the pitch. So these are the 6 pads. You can add more by just telling what number of buttons you want. So here I have 6. So there's 6 pads. So there's 6 individual kind of numbers here. So these are actually there's something called the MIDI note chart. So MIDI note chart, there it is. So if you go to that and pick on one of these images, you can get a good look at what number is what. So if I look here, number 64, that if you look here in the chart, you can see that is actually note E on octave 3. So it's E3. So what I did was I made some comments here saying E3, F sharp 3, G sharp 3, and the number here is the octave number, and then this is the letter note, and then I kind of saved out different ones here. Here's one for drum pads, and then this one's for the demo I'm showing you today, which is the keypad. So again, you can change this on the fly, but it is a little bit of it's kind of not convoluted, but
you got to learn the user interface.
You got to really dial in your interface, but it's really quick to change it here. So if you guys want this, you can grab it. It's not a part of the code in the library, but it's kind of easy. It's just like, hey, you want some MIDI notes? Here you go. And then you can change the velocity. So I just made all of them at 100. I think they were kind of variable. And then the steps, so you can change the steps that you want. And there's also the ability to turn the record mode off by default. So you can do that. And I think somewhere down here, just search for step. If you want to turn off the step sequencer or just jam out, you can comment that out. I'm looking for it. I think it's under here somewhere. Where is it? It's somewhere. I'll show you guys later, but you might want to have it on or not, so it's up to you what you want to do with it. So that's kind of it. That's just a quick tip on how do you find MIDI notes and what do these numbers mean. That's really what I wanted to show you guys here. Cool.
And then a little bit of things you might have covered already. The bottom is using the little rubber feet from some Arduino boards lying around.
Yeah, I could have.
So you're definitely going to need to use this.
Thing. Yeah, I would, because otherwise it'll slide around unless you have it in your hand. But I like these little feet, and I have one for every side, so there's 6 of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's just because the shape of it. If you only had 4 on there, it would
totter
over.
Yeah, it would totter. It did, and I was like, I only want to use 4, so I got a bunch of these. You could obviously 3D print something in Ninjaflex, but you know, I had these on hand.
All right, cool. That is this week's super awesome project. I think a year or two in the making. If you want to grab any of the parts to build this, use discount code MIDI.
Yeah,
It'll get you 10% off your order.
Anything in the shop except the aided box.
Subscription, software, or
no
gift
software
certificates.
No more software. We don't sell software.
It expires at 11:59 p.m. tonight, so make sure to take advantage of that. You will get free shipping for orders over $200 or more.
Yeah, that's a big part.
And if you are in the NYC area, certain zip codes, you can get same-day delivery. So if you order before 11 o'clock, you get it somewhere around 5 in the afternoon that same day.
That's right.
Also want to mention our newsletter. We have a 3D printing newsletter, electronics, maker business, and our newly added MicroPython tips and tricks and articles on all those lovely subjects. So head on over to adafruitdaily.com to sign up.
I know I am.
Spam free. It's not connected to your ordering account, so we'll never just automatically add you. You have to add it yourself.
That's right. That's why we talk about it.
Check that out.
Cool.
Next up, just a couple questions in the chat room.
Sure.
Let's see. Somebody's just asking.
Let's see here.
Can't decide between a Creality or a Icosahedron 3D printer. I just did a quick Google search. It looks like the can't pronounce it. The Creality 3D printer looks like a better one than the Icosahedron, just because the deltas can have some issues with
flexible material.
Flexible material, and in printing dimensional accuracy when doing the probing on the bed.
Yeah.
Can have some limitations on being able to print certain geometry. So I'd probably go with the what's it called? The type of bed. Starts with a C.
I would take that with a grain of salt because we don't have any experience with this printer. So
yeah. Well, it looks like a Wanaho i3 duplicator with a bigger
I've heard
build plate.
Both good and bad things about them. With any 3D printer, of course, you want to do your research and look at different points of views from it.
All right, and in this week's Shop Talk. This week's Time-Lapse Tuesday, we printed out what is this month's favorite 3D printing object.
Yeah,
very awesome little hairy
If you haven't watched it yet, check out the Time-Lapse Tuesday playlist that we have. It's linked in every one of our videos, so you can check that out. This was 3D printed on the Sigma 3D printer from BCN Technologies. It is a dual extruded print using regular hard PLA for the orange. And which Ninjaflex did you use?
So this is the original, more flexible Ninjaflex.
Okay, and what diameter, size diameter? They're both different from the looks of it here. It looks like the PLA was 175.
Yeah, so for the Ninjaflex, we're using the 285, since it's a little bit difficult to push that out through a smaller diameter through a Bowden tube.
That's cool that you can print not. They were both different nozzles as well. Was that correct?
No, they were the same nozzle size.
Same nozzle.
So 0.4 millimeter nozzle size, and
if you are an owner or interested in the BCN 3D, watch last week's video where Pedro shows you how you can
use
175 with it. Some folks are interested about it. So here's the Lion. So this is pop. Did you say that it's featured on Thingiverse, and it's very everybody's printing one. And what you do is you use a hot air gun or a blow dryer, and then you can kind of not melt, but like soften the little fine hairs, and then kind
stylize
of
his hair. But the only bad thing with that is once you've done styling your hair with that, it's pretty much permanent, since the follicles will melt into one another. So the cool thing with the Ninjaflex version is that you're able to continually keep styling it. Sort of reminds me of like those little troll dolls when we were growing up.
That's funny.
So here it is under the camera. You want to switch around here?
Yeah.
So the reason why it looks a little bit scruffy is because I changed the profile that we generated on using BCN's online generator, and instead of leaving the extrusion multiplier at a 1.15, which is the default, for some reason I changed it back down to 1.0, which made it under extrude just a little bit. So you can kind of see that it is looking a little bit in some areas where it under extruded, so it's a little thick than thinner in some areas. So definitely don't change that. Leave it at the 1.15 extrusion multiplier for that. The other tip we want to give is to always print slower. So this is printing at 30 millimeters a second for the Ninjaflex, but you can leave the PLA to print at a more faster speed. I use 60 millimeters a second for the PLA. Mm-hmm. And then the other tip is in setting up the dual extrusion. If we jump over to Simplify 3D.
Yes, sir, we can do that. We have the technology.
Check out the way that we laid this out. So this was remixed to have the main and the shield that holds it up together while it's printing into 3 separate parts. So you can see here, you can turn that off and you can take a look at how this was actually created. So there's little spots for the hairs, little hair follicles to go inside of and be held into the PLA part of that. And there's also those same little perforations on the shield. So the first time I actually saw this was somebody making a broom out of this. So they made, the handle part and the little triangular part that holds all of the bristles, and they were just using something really similar to a shield to hold up all of the hairs that'll be printed out.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people use this sort of technique. I've seen a Christmas tree, that was a nice popular one.
Yeah.
And Agustin, or Flolistic, you might know him as, he did all the Pokemon stuff. He did a Donkey Kong where, he had a little bit of
Actually, I think that
hair.
one was inside of Cura. You have a little option that enables furry.
Really?
Instead of doing like dual extrusion, you can actually have it bring in 2 separate STLs, and one of them will have like the fuzzy texture on it. So that's another cool way to do it. If you don't have a dual extruder, you could probably do it this way as well. So if we take a look at our section view here, you can see the way that the hairs are actually being brought in. It's sort of like a spiral.
Spiral pattern?
A little spiral pattern that is going upwards, and you can see right in the middle the little circle here where all the hair strands attach to, which also makes it a nice little purge little area as well, since for this print we didn't use any prime walls or any ooze shields or anything, since the shield for that is being used as that.
Oh. And no support material needed?
No support materials for this. The only thing yet to watch out for in this model is you can take a look at some of the bottom here. You can see that the bottom is not completely flat. So you are going to have to group these together so you can move this as one solid part and just sink it into the bed to ensure that you have a completely flat bottom here. For this one, we're just using negative 0.5 to make sure we have a nice flat bottom. That'll give you, instead of having to print some of the things in the air, which is what happened with my model actually.
Yeah. Real quick, Benji in the chat room is saying that he printed the lion completely in semiflex, and some of the overhangs on the face came out awful. So
that can happen, yes.
How did you avoid that?
Well, if you jump over to the screen there, you can see that there's definitely some overhang right on his chin. Yeah, right there. Okay. It's just being hidden by all the hair.
So would adding support material ruin the? It would. Wouldn't
it could, yeah, because it is going to intersect with the hairy part of that.
All right.
Yeah, post up a picture or video of the Ninjaflex one. I'd love to see that. And hopefully the didn't under extrude, since that's what this one looks like. And then you can see the pattern that this comes out with. It definitely looks like doll's hair is laid out, so it's in that gridded pattern, and it looks pretty good in my opinion. Even if it has the little straggly under extrusion follicles on there, it kind of looks like Scar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From Lion King.
Benji's also saying that if you print it with the incorrect nozzle size, the shields kind of won't print properly. So Benji had to print it at 1.25 times the size, because this TAS is a 0.5 nozzle. So and you have to take your nozzle in account
to when you're doing this. If you want me to show this, I have to switch it.
Okay. Yeah, so that is actually one of the problems that I ran into when setting up this file. The shield for it is, the thickness of it is, I didn't measure what the size was, but whatever it is, it did mess with even a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. So I had to do some trickery in setting up the way that the nozzle diameter in the extrusion width is set up.
Is it left or right?
It's going to be the left one. Yeah, I don't think we have it on this one. And
it's on auto here.
Yeah, I know it's on auto on this one, and it comes out if you do a quick slice before we figured out what the correct settings were. It was definitely acting like you were saying, Benji.
It'll come out kind of weird.
Yeah, it looks like some parts are printing and others aren't. Yeah. It's very scattered in the way that the extrusion is performing.
This takes a while, even for Simplify 3D.
Yeah, see, on this one, it comes out fine. Right. So it should come out like this. What it shouldn't come out as is if you load up that other, if you want to spend time on this.
Probably not. I mean.
Yeah. So you are going to have to look out for that. Definitely preview your paths to make sure that the shield will come out properly.
Yeah, so this is okay at 0.4 with 100% extrusion multiplier and a 0.48 extrusion width. Yeah. So if you had this set to like 0.42 or something, and this was like 0.95, I believe that's what it was at default, you might have some messed up results. So let's check this out. Again, this takes like a couple seconds to slice because there's a lot of hair follicles to go through, to slice through.
See, ready to path. And this should come up pretty distorted. No, actually it's performing. Yeah, of course, when we want it to behave in a weird way,
maybe it was it was definitely the nozzle type. So if you, like Benji was saying, like when you just change this to like 0.5, it probably won't work because you'd have to scale it bigger. You know what I'm saying? He scaled it 1.25. So that's how he
combated So there's different ways of
counteracting the printing problem. But one of the reasons why we love Simplify 3D so much, recommend it, is because you do have this really nice
visualizer toolpaths.
G-code.
Yeah, thought for that it would come out like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. So,
but we know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it totally happened to us.
Cool. Anything else?
Benji wanted to print it with the more extruder, but it would have to been a much bigger build volume. Yeah, the other trick is to, anybody designing these is to make sure that you're designing it in multiples of 2 for the different nozzle sizes.
We have a balding lion.
It's because of some of the under-extruded thinner parts can fall off.
But hey, most of it's staying there.
Yeah.
It's a lion row game.
So definitely a fun little project. I hope more people print this out and start thinking of more creative ways to add sort of fuzzy materials with Ninjaflex and more rigid materials. I think the broom or brush that we saw
feels really nice.
Like, good.
It feels cool.
Yeah, it's sort of like I was saying. It's sort of like a troll.
Yeah, I mean we've seen toys. Yeah, I've seen multi-color extrusion, but not multi-material on this guy. So pretty cool. If anybody wants to try it out, give it a shot. I have a Ninjaflex related question, which I'll answer and we'll tackle later in the show, which is from Chris Young.
We got like 10 minutes left if we want to take a look at some of this week's.
His hair came off. Sorry, buddy.
So this week's Community Makes.
You want to go through Community Makes real quick?
Yeah.
All right, cool, guys. Let's go into Community Makes. Sorry, I had to do that. This week I just have 2 of them, but really, really awesome projects this week. I want to talk about and congratulate Mr. Aiden, XYZ Aiden on YouTube. Where is the thing? Here it is. He just got 100,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, so congratulations to Aiden. Always making awesome projects and content. So this week he came up with the orthogonal icosahedron, Jessen's orthogonal icosahedron. So he talks about a little bit of the history of how that came apart, and he shows his how he modeled it and how he 3D printed it in a flexible material. So really, really cool walkthrough on that. So check that out if you haven't already, and be sure to subscribe and leave a like on Aiden's awesome stuff. Next up, I have this one is a Fidget flash drive from Devin of Make Anything. So
That's super cool.
yeah, this is one of the most useful remixes of a fidget spinner. So you see me do the fidget spinners. This is really awesome. Put a flash drive on either end, so he has two different, and he put these little indicators on the caps. It shows you how he designed it in SolidWorks and how he 3D printed it, and kind of processing sanding down the USB flash drive so that you can insert them in. Always good stuff from Devin, so check those out. I'll have them linked below as well. So now we can do a Q&A segment.
Okay, this question comes in from super awesome Chris Young, who's always on the show and tell.
Yep.
So Wednesday, 7:30.
Yeah.
Want to join in and check out. So one of his questions is in printing Ninjaflex on a PrinterBot Plus, Metal Plus. He was saying that he was able to extrude it perfectly before a print. Then he went a couple months later to print the exact same part, and it wasn't extruding properly. So one of the questions is, does Ninjaflex have any moisture problems?
Yeah.
And then what tips can we offer on printing on a PrinterBot Simple? So one of the things that we didn't like about the Z probe on it is sometimes it can have fluctuations in the way that it's probing the bed, meaning that it can sometimes be a little bit lower or higher than it measured last time because of temperature changes or because of the blue tape or the print and Z plate that you might be using on it. So you definitely want to make sure that the leveling is just a little bit higher than usual. Case in point, sometimes when I switch over from printing PLA to purely Ninjaflex, I do have to adjust the height of the build plate.
Right.
It has to be just a tiny bit looser because any squishing of that will make the Ninjaflex immediately buckle.
Right. Okay.
So you always want to check for that.
Well, with the PrinterBot, you have to do it through the terminal. You have to use a M501 or maybe it's M212. I think that's what it is, M212. Just do a Google search on how to offset the Z probe. Just give it more value, right?
Yeah,
so
well,
that you're
negative, by about 0.2 is what I would recommend.
Negative,
I'm sorry, 0.2 high. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So just try that.
That's probably what it is. So again, Chris's problem is it's buckling, it's clicking. It'll extrude okay if it's just heated up. It'll sit there, but it'll extrude.
Yeah.
But he's wondering what is the problem? Why is it not extrude? Why is it when he starts printing the same file that it was successful, what is it, 9 months ago or whatever months ago?
Yeah.
19 months?
I think it goes ago.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so he's had it sitting around for 19 months. Does it have any moisture thing? Personally, we haven't had any problems with moisture.
We have Ninjaflex from like 3 years ago that
still
I
works.
just used on the line.
Yeah, so us personally, we haven't had that problem. We're always in a cool environment here, though.
But I've never seen any moisture go inside or be absorbed by the Ninjaflex.
Right.
The nylon, on the other hand, immediately, like as soon as we take it out of the bag, and like a day later, you can right away see some of the bubbles forming and popping as it's extruding.
But if you do want to take some precautions, there are plenty of resources and tutorials out there. I think there's quite a few on Instructables and how to make your own filament storage solution. We just don't have that problem, so we haven't really needed to do that. All of our filament is actually right behind us in the open. But if you are concerned about that, you can consider getting like a filament storage container and then kind of modifying it, adding some desiccants in there, even adding those little sponges and then putting the filament through there so it wipes any dust away from your filament as it's being fed into your printer. Lots of options there, but that's what I think is the main thing. The main culprit of the problem is that it's just too stuck to the bed. So just offset it in your Z probe, and you should be okay. And
sometimes I've had to bump up the extrusion temperature up 5 degrees to 240
That is a great point. So Chris Young is saying 235 on the extruder. Try 240. Those 5 degrees really make a difference.
Huge difference in the way
of
how fast you're able to flow through the nozzle.
Right.
So that is one of the other things that you always have to check for as well, the extrusion temperature.
Hey, Bill is in the chat room saying like, hey, you're in Florida where the humidity is 100%. Like,
yeah. And there are a lot of elaborate ways to install filament spools inside of like a plastic container with like a little hole poked through, so you can feed that into the extruder through like a Bowden tube and things like that. So if you do have moisture problems, that's one way to go. It also depends on the type of filament as well, and obviously the atmospheric environmental conditions.
Now, I've seen some folks actually bake their filament to get the moisture out. I don't recommend that. I haven't tried that myself. I don't think that's what the problem is, though, with Ninjaflex. No, I don't think there's a moisture problem. But if there is, I don't recommend baking it either. I don't know why I said that.
For PLA.
For PLA
is what people
really for nylon, I think.
Oh, nylon.
Yeah, I think that was the.
Okay, so try those two things out and let us know if that works.
Yeah, and of course, good luck, and let us know.
Yep. Next
Any other questions?
Scuttle is asking if we've used Simplify 3D on the Ultimaker 3 at all, mainly because he wants to use custom support structures on his prints. I have not tried that out yet.
Is there a profile?
I have not created a profile. There might be one already, but I've not tried it just because of the...
you really want to try it with Cura, because that's sort of...
I wanted to make sure that when we first started testing it, that everything just worked. So I was testing out the Wi-Fi through Cura, and then the support structures that it generated, you do have a couple of different options, and I think the zigzag one worked pretty well. It's super close to the way that Simplify creates its structures. Unfortunately, you're not able to customize where you want to put them for some overhangs that don't require it. It's going to add those anyway, but you can't adjust the angle of the degree for where it'll create them. So you do have that. He was saying ultimately he created his own support structures, so that's not too bad of a way to go at it.
Yeah, but Scuttle's saying that there is a profile available.
Not there is?
Yeah, let us know where.
Send us the link. I'll take a look.
Yep. Oh yeah, so Bill's asking if Pedro forgot to the T-Nets printing on ABS. We just ran out of time. I apologize, Yeah,
a lot of the animation work that we're doing on the project videos
takes up a lot of time.
Takes time,
It's on our to-do list.
Yeah.
We'll let you know.
He did figure it out though. Just printing two objects at the same time is what helped the curling issues. So happy to hear about that one.
That's great. A nice simple fix.
Mini SK Make is saying that they use Print Studio to create the custom supports. Cool. Awesome. I did not know that. I'm guessing that it allows you to export your model after you've added the supports in there.
Okay.
Super handy to know. Thanks. I will try that out when I need to use Cura. But yeah, definitely link to the S3 Ultimaker 3 profile.
Yeah, if you can. I don't think YouTube lets people post links though. So maybe tweet it at Pedro or something. He's over there at VideoPixel. Over there.
When will we try the Ruby nozzles? I've not.
You know about them, right?
Yeah, I do know about them.
Olsen block.
Yeah, I haven't made an effort to actually grab one yet.
Yeah, they're like $90 or something.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, or $200, I forget. They're expensive.
I mean, we're not really printing too much with abrasive material, so wouldn't really make that much sense for us.
Cool.
Let's see.
All right, well.
Anything else?
If anybody has any other questions about today's project or any projects you're working on, let me know.
Yep, you can always tweet at us and any of the above handles. Use the model to make enclosures.
Yes. So Bill's asking if I have any feathers modeled in Fusion 360. Yep. All of the projects that I released come with the components. So this week's project has the feather Bluefruit LE. Mm-hmm. So it has the mounting holes and some of the chips and the JST connector so that you can kind of gauge what kind of clearances you need.
Yeah.
So you can check out that. It is in the guide. It's linked in the guide, so you can download the Fusion 360 archive and kind of pull out the component and save it out. I have confirmed that the projects do include the components.
Cool.
Yay.
Oh, sweet. So Scuttle is saying that the Simplified 3D profile is already included in the latest update of Simplified 3D. Oh, we will check that out.
Awesome.
Cool.
That's another great thing about Simplified 3D.
Mm-hmm. Always working on new profiles.
Yeah.
Cool.
Stuff.
It's one of the things you pay for.
Yeah.
All right, we will check that out. And I think that's going to do it for this week.
Okay.
And play us out a lot. We're going to be using this a lot more for all of the little jingles on the show.
If it's not annoying, yeah. I don't know what I'm playing. I don't know what notes these are. 3D Hangout.
Thank you all for joining. If you want to support the show, you can do so by buying something once in a while. You can always use discount codes we have every week on Wednesday. This week's coupon code MIDI will get you 10% off.
Yeah.
Pick yourself up any printers, materials,
we have most of the stuff
boards
to build this week's project in stock, which is kind of rare, but it's good.
I know, it's always a little frustrating when every time we create a project and we're completely sold out of all of the materials used to build it.
Yeah. Well, this
so
time
definitely take advantage of that.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. If you did enjoy the show, please let us know by giving it a thumbs up or a comment later in the show.
Share it far and wide.
Yeah.
This helps us out.
Yep. Thank you guys for joining us live. And if you have any, if you have any projects that you want to share, you can drop me a line on Twitter or Instagram or anywhere else. You can email support@adafruit.com if you want us to share some of your projects.
Yep. Those will be scheduled
later
for the blog.
tonight is Ask Engineer and Show and Tell. Unfortunately, we're going to be traveling, so we won't be there tonight, but we will return next week. Awesome. All right, guys, that's going to be it for us. We will see you next week. Good luck with all your maker endeavors, and remember to keep on making.
Have a great one. See you guys.
Bye, guys.